Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. See, in this video we will see chemistry digest, chemistry summary for competitive exams of 2016. And from this video we are going to start a science video series, science GK video series. We will upload videos on chemistry, physics, biology from NCERT books for all the exams, mostly for UPSC, state PCS exams, and all the other exams like SSC exams and banking exams, railway exams. So this is the video for the chemistry digest. Now let's start with the introduction. What is chemistry? Chemistry is a branch of physical science in which the study of composition, properties, and behavior of matter takes place. Now, the father of modern chemistry, see, Antoine Lavoisier was a French nobleman, and he is the known as the father of modern chemistry. So please remember this name for the exams. This question can be directly asked in the exams. So Antoine Lavoisier is known as the father of modern chemistry, and he was a French nobleman and chemist central to the 18th century chemical revolution and a large influence on both the history of chemistry and the history of biology. And that is why he is widely considered as the father of modern chemistry. Now we'll see the matter actually exists in three states: solid, liquid, and gases. But these days, in current affairs you might have listened the term plasma and Bose-Einstein condensate or Higgs boson particle. So nowadays there is a discussion on two more states of matter, that is the plasma, which is ionized gases containing super energetic and super excited particles, and second is Bose-Einstein condensates, which is a gas at super low temperature with extremely low density. Now we'll see what do you mean by the boiling point. These are very basic concepts of chemistry, and these are must know facts of chemistry for every exams. Now the temperature at which the liquid converts it into vapors. So liquid to vapor, whenever the conversion from liquid to vapor take place, the point at which the temperature at which this conversion takes place, it is known as its boiling point. Boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. This is very simple fact. And another very interesting fact is that the boiling point increases in the presence of impurities, and that is why the boiling point of seawater is more than the boiling point of pure water, because seawater contains a lot of impurities. And boiling point usually decreases at high altitudes, and that is why at higher altitudes the boiling point of water is less than 100 degrees Celsius, and that is why more time is required to cook a food. Whenever you go to mountain or any hill station, you will observe that the time required to cook any food is more in the hills and in the mountainous areas than the time required to cook the same food at the plain areas. So this is because the boiling point decreases at the higher latitudes. Now we'll see the melting point. Melting point is a temperature at which a substance converts from solid state to the liquid state. And melting point of ice is 0 degrees Celsius, and it decreases in the presence of impurities. So there is a fact that boiling point increases with the presence of impurities, and that is why the boiling point of seawater is more than the boiling point of pure water. But the melting point decreases in the presence of impurities. So please remember this, the difference between melting point and boiling point. Now we'll see the difference between the atom, molecule, and element. See, atom is the smallest particle of a matter that takes place in chemical reactions but cannot exist in free state. An atom is made of electrons, protons, and neutrons. So three basic particles of atom are electrons, protons, and neutrons. Protons and neutrons reside in the nucleus, that is at the center of the atom, whereas electrons revolves around the nucleus. So if this is the nucleus, proton and neutrons reside in the nucleus, and electrons will be revolving around the nucleus. Now atoms combine to form molecules, that is the smallest part of matter which can exist in free state. I'll see the difference between isotopes and isobars. These type of definition and concept based question can be generally asked in exams. Now isotopes are the, isotopes have same number of protons, that is atomic number, but different number of neutrons as well as different number of mass number. See, mass number equal to atomic number plus number of neutrons. So if the element have different number of neutrons and same number of atomic number, obviously their mass number will be different. So please remember this thing, that isotopes have same number of protons or atomic number, but different number of neutrons and mass number. Now nucleons is equal to protons plus neutrons, and the number of nucleons in the nucleus is the atom's mass number. I've told you this, mass number equal to atomic number plus number of neutron, or mass number equal to number of proton plus number of neutron, because number of proton is equal to number of proton is equal to atomic number, and each isotope of a given element has a different mass number. For example, carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14 are the three isotopes of the element carbon with mass number 12, 13 and 14, but the number of protons in all these is same, because the number of atomic number of carbon is 6. So the number of protons in all these three isotopes, that is carbon 12, carbon 13 and carbon 14, is 6, and it is same, and that is why these are known as the isotopes, because they have different mass numbers and different number of neutrons. Now isobars have the same mass number but different atomic number. Please remember this, isotopes have same protons or same atomic number and different mass number and different number of neutrons, but isobar have same mass number but different atomic number. And isobars are atoms or nucleoids of different chemical elements that have the same number of nucleons. Nucleons means number of protons plus number of neutrons. We have seen this definition of nucleons. See, nucleons means protons and neutrons combined. So isobars correspondingly differ in atomic number or number of proton but have the same mass number. For example, argon 1840 and potassium 1940. Both these compound have both these element have same mass number and different atomic number or different number of proton. So please remember this thing, isotope have same atomic number, isobar have same mass number. Only these two things, if you remember, you can solve all the questions in the exams very easily. Now we'll see the dating techniques. There are two type of dating techniques. First is radiocarbon dating, and it is used to determine the age of carbon bearing materials like wood, animal fossils, etc. And generally carbon 14 is the element used in the radiocarbon dating to determine the age of fossils, woods, etc. And the second dating technique is uranium dating, and it is used to determine the age of earth, minerals and rocks. Now we'll see something about battery. See, battery is a device which is used to convert chemical energy into the electrical energy. Please remember this. Battery used to convert chemical energy into electrical energy, and battery is of two types. First is primary battery, which are non-rechargeable and they are use and throw type. So and they act as a galvanic cell. For example, dry cell, mercury cell, or the cells which we used in clocks, watches, uh, TV remote, etc. The second type of battery is secondary battery or the rechargeable battery, and they act as a galvanic as well as voltaic cell. For example, lead storage battery or nickel cadmium battery, which we used in the inverters or mobile phones, etc. So there are two type of batteries. Now we will see the basic concept of corrosion. What is corrosion? It is actually the oxidative deterioration of a metal surface by the action of environment or by the action of air or oxygen is called corrosion, and it is an electrochemical process. And when iron exposed into the air, iron surface turns brown because of the formation of hydrated ferric oxide, that is Fe2O3.xH2O, and which is also called the rust. So you might have seen that whenever any iron, whenever any vessel or anything made of iron is exposed to air or O2, it turns red or reddish brown because of the it actually happens because of the formation of the rust, which is hydrated ferric oxide. And the same example you can see in the silver. Silver surface turns black because of the formation of silver sulfide, that is Ag2S. This happens also because of the reaction of silver with the atmosphere, with the air, or with the O2. Now we'll see the renewable and non-renewable natural resources. See, renewable resources are those resources which get renewed with the time, and they are available in large excess, and they have plenty time to get renewed. For example, air, sunlight, and they never ends. That is why they are known as renewable resources. Renewable means renew, means they get renewed. Now, non-renewable resources, they are available in very limited quantity, and they can end if used excessively or exhaustively after a limited period of time. For example, minerals, coals, petroleum, and natural gases, etc. And that is why we talk about the sustainable development of resources to save the natural resources present on the earth. So this is the first part of Chemistry Digest for competitive exams of 2016. Uh, Please subscribe, like, and please like, subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services for more updates. Thank you for listening. Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. See, we have started a video series for science and technology, science from NCERT books, and the videos for chemistry, physics, and biology, and environment and ecology. These videos are can be useful for UPSC and other state civil services exams and exams like SSC and banking and other competitive exams. And we have already completed Chemistry Digest for competitive exams of 2016 Part 1, and we have finished till renewable and non-renewable resources. In this video, we will see we will start from fuel. So in this video, we are actually seeing some of the very basic concepts of chemistry, which can be asked in all the exams. Now, fuels are the substances which produce heat and light on combustion, and this is a very important fact. You should know this. In our household kitchens, we generally use LPG cylinder, and LPG is actually an odorless gas, and that is why a strong foul-smelling substance known as ethyl mercaptan is added to LPG to detect its leakage. Because LPG is an odorless gas, so if it starts leaking, there is no way to find that LPG is leaking. So that is why a strong foul smelling substance known as ethyl mercaptan is added to LPG to detect its leakage. Please remember this. This is very important fact. Now we'll see some of the very important fuels and their compositions. First is water gas. It is a combination of carbon monoxide, that is CO plus H2. So water gas formula is CO plus H2, and it is produced by passing steam over red hot coal. Second is producer gas. Its formula is CO plus N2, and it is produced by passing insufficient air over red hot coke. Third is coal gas. it it is actually the mixture of hydrogen plus methane, that is CH4 plus ethylene plus acetylene plus carbon monoxide plus nitrogen, and coal gas is formed or produced by fractional distillation. Fourth is very important, it is natural gas. See, natural gas is mostly methane, and around 83% of methane. So natural gas is a combination of methane and ethane, and mostly it is methane, and it is produced from petroleum. Then LPG, it is very important gas. It is generally used in our kitchens, household kitchens. It is also used these days in some vehicles. LPG is actually a mixture of propane. So LPG is mostly propane and butane. See, the composition of propane and butane actually depend from country to country. And in our country, that is in India, LPG is combination of propane and butane, and mostly it is butane. And there are some other uh, elements also are present in traces or very small fractions are isobutane, butylene, n-butane, and propylene, etc. And LPG is produced from petroleum, and LPG is, I've told you this fact that LPG is normally odorless. That is, and that is why a small amount of a very foul smelling pungent gas known as ethane thiol or ethyl mercaptan is added to LPG to decrease the usage of LPG. Sixth is CNG, that is compressed natural gas, and compressed natural gas or CNG, it is actually methane. When methane is stored at high pressure, it is known as compressed natural gas, and it can be used in place of gasoline or petrol, diesel fuel, and propane or LPG. These days, CNG is becoming very popular, and it is alternative fuel to the diesel or petrol or LPG. It is also produced from petroleum. Then biogas or gobar gas, it is the mixture of methane, that is CH4, then carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and nitrogen. It is produced from organic waste. These days government is also focusing on some renewable energy, electricity production from renewable energy, and biogas is one of the source of renewable energy. Now this is very important concept, physical and chemical changes. These concepts are generally asked directly in the exams, so you should understand the difference between the physical change and chemical change, and the concept of physical change and chemical change. See, physical change are the change which only affect the physical properties like color. See, physical properties are those properties which you can generally see in the physical appearance, or if you see any substance, and whatever you see physically and the properties exhibited are known as physical properties. Like color, you can see; hardness, you can feel; density, you can know; and melting point. So these are some of the physical properties, and physical changes are those changes which only affect the physical properties, that is color, hardness, density, melting point of the matter, but they do not affect the composition and chemical properties of the matter, because these the composition and chemical properties of the matter are affected by the chemical changes. So this is the difference between physical and chemical change, and a physical change is temporary, and chemical change is permanent. Examples of physical changes are crystallization, then sublimation, then boiling, melting, vaporization, cutting of trees, dissolving sugar or salt in water. These all are the examples of physical changes. And chemical changes, I have told you that they affect the composition as well as the chemical properties of matter, and they result in the formation of a new substance. In physical change, we there is no formation of new substance, and in chemical change there is a formation of new substance. And the examples of chemical changes are like burning of fuel, burning of candle and paper, electrolysis of water, photosynthesis, ripening of fruits. See, the ripening of fruits is also done artificially by ethylene. So these are some of the examples of chemical changes. So you should Remember the difference between physical and chemical change. Physical change is temporary, chemical change is permanent. In physical change, only physical properties are changes only affected, and in chemical changes, the composition, chemical properties of matter are affected, and a new substance is formed in the chemical change. And we have also seen some of the examples of physical and chemical changes. Now we will see the concept of coal. See, coal is obtained by the carbonization of vegetable material and is available in different varieties. See, coal is actually formed from the fossils or remains of forest or wood, and petroleum is formed from the fossils or remains of kingdom. So coal from the wood or forest or trees and or vegetable matter. And there are four type of coals found in India. First is peat, then lignite or brown coal, then bituminous, and then anthracite. See, as we move from peat to lignite or brown coal to bituminous to anthracite, the carbon content in the coal increases from peat to anthracite, and the best quality of coal is anthracite coal because the percentage of carbon in anthracite is around 90% and the percentage of peat is around 60%. So as whatever, if the coal is having more percentage of carbon, then it will result in the formation of more heat and more calorific value. So that is why the best quality coal is anthracite and the worst quality coal is peat. And PL, see, there is a trick to the coal varieties, and it is PLBA, means peat, lignite, bituminous, and aluminium. And as you move from peat to lignite to bituminous to anthracite, the carbon content increases from peat to anthracite, and anthracite is the best quality coal, and peat is the worst quality coal. Please remember this. So this is the part 2 of Chemistry Digest for competitive exams for 2016, and in the next part we will cover the rest of this part of Chemistry Digest for competitive exams. So please like, share, and subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services. Thank you for listening. Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. We have started video series for science and technology and chemistry, physics, biology, and environment and ecology. And we have in this video series we are actually seeing the Chemistry Digest, Chemistry GK for competitive exams of 2016, and we are seeing the basic and very important concepts of chemistry. We have already covered two parts, and in this third part, we will try to finish this PDF Chemistry Digest GK. We have finished up to coal in the second part. In this video, we will start with flame. So, what is flame? Actually, flame consists of three parts. If you see the flame of any candle or any type of flame, it is having three parts. First is innermost part, then middle part, and then outermost part. Innermost part is actually black because of the presence of unburnt carbon particles, and it is having lowest temperature. Then comes the middle part, it is yellow, and it is yellow because of the incomplete combustion of fuel. And the outermost part of the flame is the most important, and it is blue. And it is blue because of the complete combustion of fuel. And the outermost part of the flame is the hottest part, and it is having the highest temperature, and that is why it is used by goldsmith or sunar in Hindi to heat the gold. Okay, so flame consists of three parts: inner with black color with the lowest temperature, then middle is yellow, then outermost is the blue, and it is the most important part having highest temperature, and that is why it is used by goldsmith to heat the gold. Now we'll see the fire extinguisher. There are various type of fire extinguisher. Water is the most important and very commonly used fire extinguisher. Water extinguishes fire because of its property that as it evaporates, the vapors surrounding the burning substance, they actually cut off the oxygen supply, and that is why inhibiting burning process, and that is why water is used as a extinguisher. Then, but in water cannot be used in the case of electrical fire or any oil or petroleum fire, because water is a conductor of electricity, and water is actually heavier than oil, means the density of water is heavier than oil. And because of the density principle, heaviest density will be settled at the bottom, and that is why water will be settled at the bottom, and oil will floats over the water, and that is why it continues to burn. And so water cannot be used in case of electrical or oil fire, and in those cases solid carbon dioxide can be used. And solid carbon dioxide, it is actually generated by the reaction of baking soda with the acid, and this solid carbon dioxide is used for the electrical or oil fires. Now this is very important concept. You must remember this octane number and cetane number. Octane number is used to measure the quality of the petrol, and cetane number is used to measure the quality of the diesel. So please remember this. Octane number is used to measure the quality of the petrol, or you can say quality of petrol is measured in terms of octane number, and that of diesel quality is measured in terms of cetane number. Now we will see the safety matches or matchbox or matches in Hindi. See, matchbox consists of two parts. One is the rubbing part or the striking surface, and one is the matchstick. So we must remember the chemical composition of both the parts. Match heads actually contain sulfur and sometimes also antimony trisulfide, and some oxidizing agents are also present like potassium chloride with powdered glass, colorants, fillers, and a binder made of glue and starch. And the striking surface, it consists of powdered glass or silica or sand, red phosphorus, binder, and filler. See, you can see this matchbox. There are two parts. One is the striking surface, and one is the matchstick. So this striking surface is actually consist of red phosphorus, and this consists of potassium. We see that potassium chlorate and sulfur and antimony trisulfate and powdered glass. You can see the this picture, it is more clear. This is the matchbox, and the dots here you can see it is actually the red phosphorus, and this is the striking surface, and the stick consists of powdered glass and potassium chlorate and sulfur or antimony sulfide. So because of the friction, fire occurs or ignition occurs. So this is the basic concept of safety match. Now we'll see the acids, bases, and salts. See, acids are the substances which have sour taste, and they turn the blue litmus red. So please remember this: acid turn the blue litmus paper. Litmus where paper is used to determine the whether any substance is acid or base. So acid turn the blue litmus red. You can remember this concept by just remembering the name. The one word, that ABR. ABR means acid, blue, red. So acid turn blue litmus red, and acids are the good conductor of electricity in aqueous solution. You might have seen that various solutions of aqueous like HCl and H2SO4 are used in the electricity. And pickles are always kept in glass jar because the acid present in them, because in pickles we generally use the acid, acetic acid or vinegar. So if you put the pickle in metal glass, they will react with the metal and they will produce hydrogen gas, and that is why it is always advisable to keep the pickle in glass jar. Now bases are the substances which have bitter taste. Acid have sour taste and bases have bitter. See, B for bases and B for bitter. So you can remember this that bases have bitter taste and they turn red litmus brew. Acid turn blue litmus red. So ABR and BRB means bases red blue. Now they give different colors in acids and base solutions. The salts are the product of actually neutralization reaction between an acid and a base. See, pH is the measure of acidity or basicity. See, pH is actually minus logarithmic of the concentration of H plus ion, and if the pH value is less than 7, then the substance is called acid, or if the pH value is between 7 to 14, the substance is base. Now we'll see some important gases and chemicals which are very important in the chemistry. The carbon dioxide, it is an acetic oxide of carbon and it is used by green plant for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide does not help in burning, and the air and our breath generally contain carbon dioxide, and that is why when lime water is kept in air or we pass our breath into it, the lime water turns milky. Though the reaction will be like CaO is the lime and CO2 is in the air or in our breath, because whenever we intake breath we will take O2, and whenever we will exhale the breath we will release CO2. So CO2 when when comes in the contact with the lime water or CO, so CO plus CO2 will give the formation of CaCO3, and that is why the lime water turns milky. Now, second most important gas is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide, it is a neutral oxide of air and has more affinity towards hemoglobin. See, hemoglobin in our body is more inclined towards carbon monoxide than oxygen. It Carbon monoxide is actually having 200 times more affinity than oxygen, and that is why in the environment of carbon monoxide, which is actually non-poisonous gas, people die for the need of oxygen, because oxygen supply will be blocked, and the hemoglobin of our body will be reacting with the CO, that is the carbon monoxide, and the oxygen supply will be blocked, and that is why people may die. So carbon monoxide is having more affinity towards hemoglobin. Please remember this fact. This question has been asked in various exams and is still being asked in various exams. In the UPPCS prelims 2016, this question was asked again. Now, it is very dangerous to sleep in an unventilated room with fire burning inside, because the fire produces carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. So actually, if you sleep in at the room which is unventilated or which is not having any ventilation facility, a lot of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide will be produced, which will react with your hemoglobin, and which, see, carbon monoxide is having more affinity towards hemoglobin, and that is why the oxygen supply may block, and that is why it is said that in the closed room you should not burn any coil, any mosquito uh, killing coil like mortine or any other coil. Now another chemical is plaster of Paris. It is chemically calcium sulfite hemihydrate, and the formula is CaSO4 dot half H2O, and it is prepared by heating gypsum, which is the calcium sulfate dehydrate. So gypsum is CaSO4 dot 2H2O at 373 Kelvin. And on mixing with water, the plaster of Paris further sets into a hard solid, and it is called gypsum. And uses of plaster of Paris is that it is used to plaster fractured bones for making toys and material for decoration and for making surfaces smooth, because it is used in it is used to plaster fractured bones, because if the plaster of Paris will mix with water, the plaster of Paris will be turned into a hard solid, and that is why it is used to plaster fractured bones. Now, another compound is Portland cement. It is actually a complex mixture of silicates and aluminates of calcium with a small amount of gypsum, and raw material used for the manufacture of Portland cement are limestone and clay. Please remember this. So the raw material of Portland cement are limestone and clay. This is very important fact. You should remember this. And the composition of Portland cement is calcium oxide 50 to 60%, alumina 5 to 10%, and magnesium oxide 2 to 3%. And gypsum is added to cement to decrease its rate of setting. Please remember this fact. And in cement, if lime is in excess, cement starts cracking during setting, and if lime is less, cement is of weak strength. So please remember this also. Now, what is mortar? Mortar is actually a mixture of sand, cement, and water, and it is used for joining bricks and plastering walls. Please remember all these facts. These are very basic concepts of chemistry, and these are generally definition based question, and this can be directly as an exam that what is the mortar. So mortar is a mixture of sand, cement, and water, and it is used for joining bricks and plastering walls. Then what is concrete? Concrete is a mixture of gravel, sand, cement, and water, and it is used for flooring and making roads. You might have seen that concrete roads. Now, RCC, you must have heard this term. RCC full form is reinforced concrete cement, and it is concrete with steel bar and wires, and it is used for constructing roofs, bridges, and pillars. So this is the third part of chemistry digest for competitive exams of 2016. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services for more updates. And in the next part, we will cover the rest of this PDF. Thank you for listening. Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. In this video series, we have actually started the videos for general science, chemistry, physics, bio, and environment and ecology. And this is the video for chemistry digest for competitive exams. We have already covered three parts of this video, and this is the last part, that is the part 4, and it can be used for all the exams like UPSC, state civil services, and SSC exams, railway exams, and various other competitive exams. So we have finished in the third video till RCC. In this video series, we will start with glass. So what is glass? See, let me tell you that these are the very basic concepts of chemistry, and these questions are directly asked in the exams. So you should not miss this. Now, glass is a non-crystalline amorphous solid, and it is often transparent. And glass, it is an amorphous solid or super cooled liquid, and it contains mainly silica or SiO2. And if you add different substances, you can obtain various colors in the glass. So that is why different substances are added to obtain glass of different colors. These are the colors and these are the substances added. For red glass, generally copper oxide is added. For green glass, chromium oxide is added. And for blue glass, cobalt oxide is added. And for brown, iron oxide is added. Chemical formula is written here. Copper oxide CuO, chromium oxide Cr2O3, cobalt oxide CuO, and iron oxide Fe2O3. Now, next important chemical is heavy water. The formula is D2O, and it is the water that contains heavy hydrogen or deuterium. See, hydrogen have three isotopes, that is hydrogen, then deuterium, then tritium. So 1H1, 1H2, and 1H3. And deuterium actually differs from the hydrogen, and it usually found in water. And protium, that is in hydrogen, and in that each atom of deuterium contains a proton and a neutron. Now heavy water is D2O, and it may also be uh, chemically characterized as deuterium protium oxide DHO. Heavy waters occurs naturally, and although it is very much less common than the regular water, means heavy water is generally found in the nature, but in very less quantity than the normal water. And this T2O or heavy water is generally used in the nuclear reactors. You must have listened this heavy water, and this heavy water can be used as a coolant as well as moderator also. And approximately one water molecule per 20 million water molecules is heavy water. So the presence of heavy water in nature is very less, but it exists in nature. Next is the hard water. Hard water is the water in which soluble bicarbonates of calcium and magnesium are present, and it is actually called the temporary hard water. There are two type of hard water. One is temporary and one is permanent hard water. So in temporary hard water, soluble bicarbonates of calcium and magnesium are present, and in the permanent hard water, soluble sulfates and chlorides of magnesium and calcium are present. So please remember this difference. In temporary hard water, soluble bicarbonates of calcium and magnesium. So there are bicarbonates present in temporary hard water, and there are sulfates and chlorides present in permanent hard water. Now we should know that how to remove hardness of water. See, the temporary hardness of water is can be removed by boiling. This is the first method, and also by adding calcium hydroxide. So temporary hardness of the water is due to the bicarbonates of magnesium and calcium, and it can be removed by the boiling or by adding calcium hydroxide, that is CaOH whole twice, and it is also known as Clark process. Now the permanent hardness of water is because of the sulfates and chlorides of magnesium and calcium, and it is removed. So permanent hydration of the permanent hardness of the water can be removed by the by adding the sodium carbonate. Temporary hardness can be removed by adding calcium hydroxide, and permanent can be removed by adding sodium carbonate or calgon or sodium hexametaphosphate Na2NaHPO3. Okay, please remember these facts. Now next concept is hardening of oil or hydrogenation. See, oil is an unsaturated fat, but when heated with nickel catalyst and hydrogen, it gets converted into a solid mass which is called ghee, and that is a saturated fat, and this process is hydrogenation. So this process is called hardening of oil and is carried out through hydrogenation in the presence of nickel as a catalyst. Now we'll see the ores. These are very important, and the questions related to the ores are generally asked in all the exams, all the competitive exams. Ores are the minerals from which the metals are extracted commercially and economically. Please remember this. Ores are the minerals from which metals are extracted commercially as well as economically and with minimum effort. So these are called ores of metals. See, metal is found in various type of minerals, in the ores also and in other minerals also. But those minerals from which metals can be extracted economically, commercially, and very easily with minimum effort, those minerals are known as ores. For example, aluminium. Aluminium can be extracted from bauxite, corundum, or cryolite. So the ores of aluminium are bauxite, that is Al2O3.2H2O, corundum Al2O3, cryolite or Na3AlF6. Then ores of iron are hematite, magnetite, iron pyrite, and siderite. Formula for hematite is Fe2O3, magnetite is Fe3O4, iron pyrite is FeS2, and siderite is FeCO3. Then ores of copper are copper pyrite, copper glance, and malachite. Copper pyrite formula is CuFeS2, copper glance is Cu2S. Then this malachite is 2CuCO3 CuOH whole twice. Then ores of zinc are zinc blende and calamine. Zinc blend is ZnS and calamine is ZnCO3. Ores of sodium are rock salt or NaCl, which is a commonly used salt. And then other ore of sodium is sodium carbonate or Na2CO3. Then ores of potassium are carnellite and saltpeter. Carnellite formula is this KClMgCl dot 6H2O and saltpeter is KNO3. Ores of lead are galena and anglesite. Galena is PbS and anglesite is PbCl2. Ores of tin are tin pyrite and clasiterite. The formula is given here. Then ores of silver formula is Ag, and one ore is there uh, from which silver is extracted. It is silver glance Ag2S. Then gold formula is Au, and the ores of gold are calverite and syberite. Calverite is AuTe2 and syberite is AgAuTe2. Then ores of mercury are cinnabar, that is HgS, and calomel, that is Hg2Cl2. Then ores of magnesium are dolomite and carnellite. Dolomite is MgCO3, CaCO3, carnellite is KCl, MgCl, 2,6H2O. Then ores of calcium are limestone and dolomite. Limestone is CaCO3 and dolomite is MgCO3 and CaCO3. Ores of phosphorus are phosphorite, that is Ca3PO4 CaFe2, and fluoropatite, that is 3Ca3PO4 CaFe2. So this is the end of this chemistry digest for competitive exams, and these are the very basic concepts of chemistry which are must know for all the competitive exams in India, whether it is UPSC or state civil services exams or SSC exams or railway exams or banking or any other competitive exam. And in the next video we will put some MCQ which have been previously asked in various exams, and in other videos we will bring some more videos of physics, biology, and some more videos from NCERT and some from environment and ecology. So thank you for listening. Please subscribe, like and share our channel. Please like, share and subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services for more updates. Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. In this video we will see physics concepts or physics basics for exams 2016 exams. This is actually a general science series for 2016 exams, and we have already covered chemistry digest or chemistry basics for 2016 exams, and we have covered chemistry MCQs also. And these concepts are very important for all the exams, for UPSC, for state PCS exams, SSC exams, banking, and various other exams. So let's start this first part. See, in physics, we will start with the basic concepts. First is work. What is work? Work is actually, the formula is work is equal to force into displacement. So in physics, a force is said to do work if, when acting on a body, there is a displacement of the point of application in the direction of force. So work is equal to force into displacement. And the example can be seen that when a ball is held above the ground and then dropped, then the work done on the ball as it falls is equal to the work of the ball, that is a weight of the ball, that is a force, and that multiplied by the distance to the ground or displacement. Distance and displacement are actually the same thing, but if you consider direction also, then the term is known as displacement, and if you consider only magnitude, then the term is known as distance. So work is said to be done if force acting on a body is able to actually move it through some distance in the direction of force, and the unit of work is joule. This is the, so W is the common symbol of work. SI unit is joule. In SI base units is could also be 1 kg meter square per second square, because kg meter will be the, so see, kg will be the mass, and then meter will be the, meter per second will be the velocity. So force into distance, or force equal to mass into acceleration. Mass means kg and acceleration means meter per second square. So force into displacement. And second definition is energy. Energy is a scalar quantity and its unit is joule. So the unit of SI unit of work and energy both is joule. And there is a law of conservation of energy. It says that sum of all kinds of energy in an isolated system remains constant at all times. And this is known as the law of conservation of energy. Now, another very basic definition is power. Power is the rate of doing work. So, at the rate at which work could be done is known as power, and it is the amount of energy consumed per unit time. So, power could also be said that energy per unit time. Power is having no direction, and that is why it is a scalar quantity. See, the difference between the scalar and vector quantities are like scalar quantity only have magnitude and vector quantity have magnitude as well as direction. And in the SI system, the unit of power is joule per second, also known as watt, in the honor of James Watt, the 18th century developer of the steam engine. So please remember this fact, that James Watt was the developer of the steam engine in the 18th century, and in the honor of Watt, the the unit of power is watt. And 1 watt hour equal to 3600 joule or 3600 joule, and 1 kilowatt hour is equal to 3.6 into 10 to the power 6, means 10 into 10 into 10 up to 6 times. So 1 kilowatt hour equal to 3.6 into 10 to the power 6 joule. See, this 1 kilowatt hour, actually kilowatt hour is generally the unit which we see in our electric meter, and the bill on the electricity is calculated by this unit, kilowatt hour. Then 1 horsepower is also another unit. It is equal to 746 watt. Please remember it. It could be directly asked in the exams. Now another concept is gravitation. See, every body in the universe attract other body by a force known as force of gravitation. And the gravitational force of the earth is gravity, and it is represented by G. See, the acceleration produced in a body due to force of gravity is called the acceleration due to gravity, or G, and its value is 9.8 meter per second square. The value of G is actually not constant everywhere in the earth. It varies. We'll see some facts. And acceleration due to gravity is independent of shape, size and mass of the body. Now this is another very important fact, that escape velocity. Escape velocity is actually the minimum velocity with which an object, if crosses the earth's gravitational field. Means if you give any object a velocity equal to escape velocity, then it will be crossing the earth's gravitational field and it will never return to the earth. And that is why, and the fact that the escape velocity of any object at earth's surface is 11.2 kilometers per second. So if you provide any object with a velocity of 11.2 kilometer per second, then it will be permanently escape from the earth surface and it will never return to the earth surface. Now escape velocity at the moon surface is 2.4 kilometer per second. So escape velocity at earth is higher and than the moon surface, and due to the low escape velocity there is no atmosphere on the moon. And these are some of the facts that value of G or gravity decreases with the height. So as you move up the surface, the value of G will start decreasing, and value of G also decreases uh, with the depth from the earth surface. So as you move up the earth surface, or you move down the earth surface, the value of G will decrease. Now G is maximum at poles. Please remember this. It could be directly asked. The value of G or gravity or acceleration due to gravity is maximum at poles and minimum at equators. Okay, please remember this fact. And G decreases due to the rotation of Earth. Now G decreases if angular speed of the Earth increases, and increases if angular speed of the Earth decreases. So G, or the acceleration due to gravity, is inversely proportional to the angular speed of the Earth. Now acceleration due to gravity at the moon is 1/6 that of Earth. So at Earth, the value of G is 9.8 meter per second square, and the G at moon will be 9.8 by 6. So it will become around 1.6 something meter per second square at the moon surface. And that is why the weight of a person on the surface of the moon will be 1/6 of his actual weight on the earth. Because see, weight equal to mass into the value of G. So mass of the person or any object would remain the same, and the value of G at the earth will be G, and value of G will at the moon will be G by 6. So that is why the weight of a person on the surface of the moon will be 1/6 of his actual weight on the earth. So this is the first part of the physics digest or physics basic concepts for the exams. And please like, share, and subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services. And please wait for the second part of this video. Thank you for listening. Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. This is the third part of physics digest for exams, or physics very basic concepts for exams. And this is the actually video series for general science. We have already covered chemistry videos, and now we are making physics. And then we will cover all the NCERT from class 6 to class 12th. So we have covered up to satellites. In this video, we will start from atomic and nuclear physics. So let's start. Cathode rays. Cathode rays discovered by Sir William Crook. Please remember this fact. And there are some properties which are very important. They travel in a straight line. They produce fluorescence. They can penetrate through the thin coils of metal, and also deflected by both electric as well as magnetic fields. They have velocity ranging from 1/30th to 1/10th of the velocity of light. Then another type of waves are positive or canal rays. These rays were discovered by Goldstein. The positive rays consist of positively charged particles. They also travel in a straight line. They can be deflected by electric and magnetic fields. These rays can also produce ionization in gases. Now, another very important rays are X-rays. They are electromagnetic waves, and their wavelength ranges from zero point 0.1 angstrom to the 100 angstrom. See, sorry for the disturbance. 1 angstrom is equal to 10 to the power minus 10 meter. So X-rays are electromagnetic waves, and their wavelength ranges from zero point 0.1 angstrom to 100 angstrom. And X-rays were discovered by Roentgen, and they can also travel in straight line. But X-rays are actually harmful if the long exposure of X-rays is applied to the body. It is very injurious for human body. X-rays produce photoelectric effect. Now there are various uses of X-rays. X-rays are very important rays. So they are used in medical science. X-rays are used in surgery for detection of fracture, for diseased organs, for foreign particles like bullets, stones, etc. They are also used in the treatment of cancer and in skin diseases. Also, if any accident takes place, the doctor always prescribe to do an X-ray. So that is there also X-rays used. Then X-rays X-rays are also used in engineering. They are used in detecting faults, cracks, flaws, and gas pockets in finished metal products and in heavy metal sheets. They are also used in scientific work. X-rays are used in studying crystal structure and complex molecules. Then X-rays are also used in custom department. They are used in custom department for detection of banned materials kept hidden. Now another very important concept is radioactivity. It was discovered by Henry Becquerel, Madame Curie, and Pierre Curie. See, Madame Curie is the only lady which got Nobel Prize in physics as well as in chemistry. Please remember this fact. And all the three, Henry Becquerel, Madame Curie, and Peter Curie, they got all the three, Henry Becquerel, Madame Curie, and Peter Curie, they got Nobel Prize for the discovery of radioactivity. Now, another very important fact or very important concept is nuclear fission. It is a nuclear process, and in this process, an atom actually splits into two or more smaller atoms. Here it is written. So, nuclear fission is when an atom splits apart into smaller atoms, and the process gives off a lot of energy and is used in nuclear weapons and in nuclear reactors. Please remember this. The nuclear reactors which are used to produce electricity, they are based on the nuclear fission process, not fusion. Fusion is different. Fission is different. Fission in fission, one big atom splits into smaller atoms, and fission is also basic for atom bomb. So atom bomb is based on nuclear fission, but hydrogen bomb is based on nuclear fusion, which North Korea have claimed to explode just few days ago. And uranium 235 and plutonium 239 are used as the fissionable material. Now, nuclear fission was first demonstrated by Helen and Fritz Strassmann. So this is the diagram of nuclear fission. Here, uranium, big particle of uranium, and when a neutron is made to collide, or strike with this uranium, it is splits into two atoms, two molecules. That is one of krypton and another of barium, and a lot of energy is also released, and a lot of neutrons are released. So these neutrons will again, will be collided with the other particles, and that is why a chain reaction is set up in nuclear fission. So nuclear fission is the basis of nuclear reactor which produce electricity. Now another process is nuclear fusion. When two or more light nuclei combine together, they form a heavier nucleus, and that process is known as nuclear fusion. So the nuclear fusion is the process of making a single heavy nucleus from two lighter nuclei. And fusion happens in the middle of stars and in the sun also. So in the sun, the energy released from the fusion process. In the sun, hydrogen atoms are fused together and make helium, and in this process a lot of energy is released. And but to make the nuclear fusion, very high temperature is required. Hydrogen bomb is based on nuclear fusion, and hydrogen bomb was made by an American scientist in 1952. I've told you hydrogen bomb based on nuclear fusion, and it is said that hydrogen bomb is around 1000 times more powerful than normal nuclear bomb or normal atom bomb. So these are some facts. You should remember this for all the exams. Now another thing is nuclear reactor or atomic pile. Nuclear reactor is actually an arrangement in which controlled nuclear fission reaction takes place. I've told you that this controlled nuclear fission is also a chain reaction. We have just saw this in chain reaction because when one nuclei of uranium is made to be collided with the neutron, it will result in the formation of two other molecules or two other elements. and then in that process some neutrons are released, and these neutrons will again collided, and then some more neutrons will be produced, so there will be a chain reaction. But in the nuclear reactor, that chain reaction is controlled, and that is the process for getting the electricity from the nuclear reactor. First nuclear reactor was established in Chicago University under the supervision of Professor Enrico Fermi, and there are some of the elements used in the nuclear reactor process, like they are known as the moderators. They are actually used to slow down the fast moving neutrons so that a controlled chain reaction takes place in the nuclear reactor. So what is the use of moderator? Moderators are used to slow down the fast moving neutrons. So moderators are used to decrease the velocity of the neutrons, and there are some very common moderators like heavy water or D2O, then graphite and beryllium oxide. So these three are used as moderators in nuclear reactor. Heavy water, graphite and beryllium oxide. Please remember these three names. These are used as moderators in the nuclear reactor, and moderators means to moderate. To moderate means to slow down the fast moving neutrons or to slow down the velocity of the neutrons. Now there are a lot of uses of nuclear energy, nuclear reactor. They produce electrical energy from the energy released during the fission. Then also to produce different isotopes, this can be used. And then in medical, physical, and agricultural science. So this is the third part of Physics Digest for exams. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel, Study for Civil Services, for more updates. And wait for our fourth part. In that part, we will try to cover the rest of this PDF. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Study for Civil Services. This is the second part of Physics Digest for exams, or Physics Basics, Physics Concepts for 2016 exams. These basics are very important, and in this video I will also tell you some of the very important facts which could be directly asked in the exam. Satellite. See, what is satellite? Satellite is any celestial body which revolve around two types, either natural like moon, or artificial satellites like whatever IRNSS or INSAT. So these all are artificial satellites. They revolve around a planet under its gravitational force of attraction. Now, satellite could also be artificial, I've told you, and it has been intentionally placed into an orbit. And such objects are sometimes called artificial satellites to distinguish them from the natural satellites such as Earth's moon. Similar to the Earth, every planet of the sun, every planet of the universe, which see there are 8 planets which revolve around the sun, and most of them have their natural satellite. Earth is and there are which are having more than one moons. Now this is very important fact. You must remember this fact, that world's first artificial satellite was launched by Soviet Union in 1957, and the name of that satellite was Sputnik 1. So the world's first artificial satellite, that is the Sputnik 1, was launched by Soviet Union in 1957. And uses of satellites could be various. They are used for a large number of purposes. Common purpose would include military and civilian Earth observation satellites, also communication satellites, weather satellites, research. These satellites are important for the for giving the signals to the TV or mobile, or for some navigation, or for some weather reports, or for reports of rainfall, and also the IMD department. And space stations and human spacecraft in orbit are also satellites. And there are various orbits of satellites also. and the satellites orbits vary greatly depending on the purpose of the satellites. And there are three types of orbits of satellites. One is low Earth orbit, medium Earth, and then high Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit is very well known and overlapping, and it include low. Sorry, these are the. There are actually three orbits of satellites, and they are very well known. And these could be low Earth orbit, then polar orbit, and geostationary orbit. Now, in the low Earth orbit, geocentric orbits with altitude up to 2000 kilometers. So satellites placed up to the altitude of 2000 kilometers. Now there are another orbit, that is medium Earth orbit, and here the geocentric orbits ranging in altitude from 2000 kilometers to just below geosynchronous orbit. Geosynchronous orbit is actually about 36,000 kilometers from the Earth, and low orbit up to 2000 kilometers. So they depending on the purpose of the satellite, they are actually placed in three type of orbit. One is low, then medium, then geostationary or high orbit. So medium orbit means up to between 2000 to 36,000 around kilometer, and these are also known as intermediate circular orbit, and these are most commonly at either 20,200 kilometer or 20,650 kilometers, and they have orbital period of 12 hours. But geosynchronous or the geosynchronous or geostationary orbit are having orbital period of 24 hours, that is one Earth day. And both geosynchronous and geostationary orbit are orbits around Earth matching Earth's sidereal rotation period, that is 1 day or 24 hours, approximately equal to 24 hours. And all geosynchronous and geostationary orbit have a semi-major axis of 42,000 around kilometer. And this is very important fact that a geostationary orbit stays exactly above the equator. And this is termed geostationary because if you see from the Earth, the satellite will always remain stationary. That you can assume that the satellite is stationary at that position, but it is actually moving. So that is why that orbit is geostationary orbit. But geosynchronous orbit may swing north and south to cover more of the Earth's surface. So please remember this, that a geostationary orbit stays exactly above the equator, but geosynchronous orbit may swing north and south to cover more of the Earth's surface, but both complete one full orbit of Earth per sidereal day. And the last one I told you that low, medium, and then high Earth orbit. Here, geosynchronous orbit above the altitude of geosynchronous orbit, that is around 36,000 kilometer. And Moon is a natural satellite. I've told you. Insert one is artificial satellite. Geostationary satellite revolved around the Earth at a height of around 36,000 kilometer. I've told you. Please remember this fact. This is very important. Time period of rotation of geostationary orbit is around 24 hours or 1 day or one Earth sidereal day. Then the Earth rotates on, and this is very important fact because now if you see that the Earth rotates on its axis from west to east, and this rotation makes the sun and stars appear to be moving across the sky from east to west because of the relative motion. So Earth rotates from west to east, that is why it seems that sun and stars are moving from east to west. And geostationary satellite is used to telecast TV programs from one part to another, and in weather forecasting and in prediction of floods and droughts. So these are some of the uses of geostationary satellite. Then polar satellites, some satellites are launched in polar orbit, and they revolve around the Earth in polar orbit at around 800 kilometer approximately. And time period of these polar satellites is around 84 minutes. So if you summarize the satellites, some of the facts you should know that satellites are any body which revolve around the planet. There are two type of satellites: natural or artificial. Natural is moon, and artificial could be any like INSAT or IRNSS or any navigational or any communication satellite. And then world's first artificial satellite is Sputnik 1. It was launched by Soviet Union or the Russia in 1957. They are used for a large number of purposes: military, civilian, observation, communication, navigation, weather and research. Space station and human spacecraft in orbit are also satellites. There are various type of satellite orbits, and low Earth orbit here altitude up to 2000 kilometer. Then medium here up to altitude is varies from 2000 to around 36,000 kilometer. And then another very important fact is that a geostationary orbit stays exactly above the equator, but geosynchronous orbit may swing north and south to cover more of the Earth's surface. This is very important. This could be asked that what is the difference between the geostationary orbit and the geosynchronous orbit. So geostationary orbit stays exactly above the equator, but geosynchronous orbit may swing north and south, and both cover the one full orbit of Earth in one cycle day or 24 hours. Then there are some high Earth orbits also. These are above the geosynchronous orbit of 36,000 kilometer. Then geostationary satellite revolve around the Earth at around 36,000 kilometer. Time period is 24 hours. Then this is very important fact that Earth rotate from west to east. That is why it seems that Sun and stars uh, moving or rotating from east to west. There are various uses of geostationary satellite and as well as polar satellites. I've told you this. So this is the second part of physics basics for exams. And please like, share, and subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services for more updates. And wait for our third part of this video. Thank you for listening. Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. So this is the another part of physics digest for exams or physics concepts for exams. These are very basic concepts, and we have actually started the series of general science for all the exams: UPSC, state PCS exams, SSC exams, and various other competitive exams. So in the previous part, we have covered up to the uses of nuclear reactor, and in this part, we will start from the components of nuclear reactor. There are several components of nuclear reactor which are as follows. First and most important is the fissionable fuel, which can be fissioned. It could be uranium 235 or uranium 239. Another component is moderator. So moderator is used to moderate, that is to slow down the neutrons from fission to the thermal energy so that they can be further used for fission reaction. Because in the previous part I've explained you, in the nuclear reactor there is a controlled fission chain reaction. So that is why the speed of the neutrons is made to be slow so that they can be used further, and moderator does that work. So moderator is used to moderate or slow down the speed of neutrons. So this is second part, and I've told you that there are several moderators like heavy water, then beryllium oxide. Now another is and graphite. So heavy water and graphite and beryllium oxide are used as moderator. Another component in nuclear reactor is control rod. They are used in nuclear reactor to control the fission rate of either uranium or plutonium. Uranium and plutonium are the fuels of the nuclear reactor, and moderator used to slow down the speed of the neutron. Control rod are used to control the fission rate of uranium and plutonium. And there is one more fact, you might have heard about the Iran and the world powers like P5+1 deal. and there also they talked about the fission rate of material or the fission percentage of material. In the nuclear reactor which used to produce electricity, the fissionable percentage required is around 3 to 5%. Now, the control rods are actually composed of chemical elements like boron, silver, indium, and cadmium that are capable of absorbing many neutrons without themselves fissioning. Now, another very basic concept is Newton's laws of motion. There are three laws of motion. First law say that everybody maintains its initial state of rest or motion with uniform speed on a straight line unless an external force act on it. So unless an external force act on it, everybody maintains its initial state of rest, or if in motion, then it maintains the motion with uniform speed on a straight line. And example could be while jumping from a slowly moving train bus, one must run for a short distance in the direction of motion. So this is because of the Newton's first law of motion. Then second law is the form acting on an object is directly proportional to the, sorry, this is not form, it is actually force. So the force acting on an object is directly proportional to the product of mass of the object and the acceleration produced in it. So according to this law, F is equal to m into a. F is equal to force, then m is equal to mass, and a equal to acceleration. Third law is very famous, that in every action there is a equal and opposite reaction. Examples could be bogies of the train are provided with buffers to avoid severe jerks during shunting of trains, and rockets move up due to the reaction of downward ejection of gas. So these are the examples of Newton's third law of motion. See, this is Newton's law of motion. They can be summarized as every object persists in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless it is compelled to change the states by force impressed on it. मतलब अगर कोई बॉडी है या कोई ऑब्जेक्ट है तो वो अपने स्टेट ऑफ रेस्ट में या यूनिफॉर्म मोशन में रहेगी जब तक उसको कोई एक्सटर्नल फोर्स अफेक्ट ना करे. Second is force is equal to change in momentum per change in time. And for a constant mass, force equal mass into acceleration F equal to m into a. Third is very famous, for every action there is equal and opposite reaction. Then again, these three laws, objects as rest remain as rest, and objects in motion remain in motion in a straight line unless acted upon by unbalanced force. And other laws are same. So these were the Newton's law of motion. These are very important. These could be asked in the exams with a direct statement. Another concept is circular motion. So when an object moves along a circular path, its motion is called circular motion, and the external force required to act radially inward over the circular motion of the body is called centripetal force. So centripetal force acts inward, radially inward, and centrifugal is a pseudo force that is act equal and opposite to the centripetal force because of the Newton's third law of motion. So centripetal force will act radially inward, means if this is a circle, then centripetal will be this, and centrifugal will be radially outward. And please remember these three examples which work on the principle of centrifugal force. Centrifugal is the radially outward, and cream separator, then centrifugal dryer, they work on the principle of centrifugal force. So these could be directly asked in the exams, like cream separator is based on which principle? So that principle is centrifugal force. Another concept is friction. Friction in the actually opposing force that is set up between the surface of contact when one body slides or rolls on or tends to do so on the surface of another body. So when one body tries to slide, or when one body tries to rolls or tend to move on the surface of another body, there is an opposition or the resistance takes place, that is known as friction. And it is because of the friction we are able to move on the surface of earth. Please remember this, because of the friction force. Because when we walk on the road, so we apply force on the road, and there is a friction force which is applied by the surface on us also, and because of that force we are able to move on the surface of earth. Friction are of two types. One is static, when the body is stable or is at rest, then static friction takes place, and the when body is moving, then kinetic friction takes place. And while applying brakes in automobiles, it stops only because of the friction. So this is the fourth part of Physics Digest for exams, or physics concept for exams. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services for more updates. And please wait for our another part of this video. Thank you for listening. Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. This is the fifth part of Physics concepts for exams, Physics Digest for 2016 competitive exams, and we have covered up to friction in the last part. And from this part we will start with Pascal's law of pressure. Pascal's law is very important, and its applications are generally asked in the exams. Now, what is Pascal's law? It states that whenever there is an increase in pressure at any point in a confined liquid, please focus on this term, confined liquid. So, whenever there is an increase in pressure at any point in a confined liquid, there is equal increase at every other point in the container. So, if a small force will be applied here, then the large force will be automatically be applied here, and that is why it is the principle used in various applications. Now the pressure exerted at one surface of an incompressible fluid is equal to pressure exerted at any other surface, and this allows a small force applied to a small area to be converted into a large force applied to a large area, as in the hydraulic lift below. So Pascal's principle is used actually whenever we want to lift any large part, any large vehicle or any large substance. Here we will apply the Pascal's law, and we will apply small force, and it will be automatically converted into large force because the pressure will be same, and pressure is equal to force upon area. So that is why this principle is used in various applications like hydraulic lift, hydraulic press, and hydraulic brakes. So all these three, hydraulic lift, hydraulic press, hydraulic brakes, are based on the Pascal's law of pressure. Please remember this. Now another concept is Archimedes principle. Archimedes principle indicates that the upward buoyant force that is exerted on a body immersed in a fluid, whether fully or partially submerged, is equal to the weight of the fluid that the body displaces. So when a body is immersed partially or wholly in a liquid, there is an apparent loss in weight of the body, and that is equal to the weight of the liquid that is displaced by the body. Please remember this. So the weight of the water displaced by an iron ball is less than its own weight. And whereas the water displaced by an immersed portion of a ship is equal to its weight. So that is why the small ball of iron sinks in the water. Iron ball sinks in the water because the weight of water displaced by an iron ball is less than its own weight. So the iron ball density will be high, and that is why it will sink into the water because of the density principle. But the large ship will keep floating on the water because the water displaced by the immersed portion of the ship will be equal to its weight. And this is very interesting fact that because of this Archimedes principle, a fat person will quickly learn the swimming, if you compare the fat person to a slim person, because a fat person will displace more water, and that is why it will be more balanced. So please remember this interesting fact. A fat person will quickly learn the swimming as compared to the slim person. Another example is hydrogen filled balloon float in air because hydrogen is lighter than air, and a person can lift more weight in water. Another concept is wave. Wave is actually a disturbance which propagates energy from one place to another without the transportation of matter. This is very important. It propagates energy from one place to another, but without the transportation of matter. Waves are broadly of two types. One is mechanical waves and then electromagnetic waves. Mechanical waves means the wave which requires some medium, and they are also two types: longitudinal or transverse wave. Longitudinal waves means the displacement of the medium is in the same direction or in the opposite direction to the direction of the travel of the wave. So they move in the length in the direction of the travel of the wave, and they move along the actually length. And in this wave, the particle of the medium vibrate in the direction of the propagation of wave. Examples of longitudinal waves are like the waves on springs or the sound waves in the air. So sound waves are the longitudinal waves. Please remember this. Another is the transverse wave. In this wave, the particles of the medium vibrate perpendicular to the direction of propagation of wave. In the longitudinal wave, the particles are moving along the direction of propagation of wave. But in the transverse wave, the particles of the medium are moving perpendicular to the direction of the propagation of the wave. And waves on strings under tension, then waves on surface of water, both these are the examples of transverse wave. Sound wave is a longitudinal wave because they move along the direction of the propagation of the wave. Now another type is electromagnetic wave, the waves which do not require medium for their propagation, that is which can propagate even through the vacuum. They are known as electromagnetic waves. And light, radio waves, x-rays, etc. are the examples of electromagnetic waves. So x-rays and radio waves, then visible lights, then infrared waves, all these are examples of electromagnetic waves. And these waves propagate with the velocity of light in the vacuum. Now we'll see about sound waves. Sound waves are longitudinal mechanical waves. I've told you this. And based on their frequency range, sound waves could be divided into following categories. First is the sound waves which lie in the frequency range of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz are known as audible waves. So audible waves are lying in the frequency range of 20 hertz to the 20,000 hertz, and the waves which lie outside this range are not audible. And the sound waves having frequency less than 20 hertz are known as infrasonic, and the sound waves which are having frequency more than 20,000 hertz are known as ultrasonic waves. And ultrasonic waves are used for sending signals, measuring the depth of sea, cleaning clothes and machinery parts, remaining lamp shot from the chimney of factories, and in ultrasonography. Now, speed of sound. Speed of sound is maximum in solids, minimum in gases. So, if you compare the speed of sound in liquid, solid, and gases, speed of sound will be maximum in solid, and then second maximum in the liquid, and least in the gases. When sound goes from one medium to another medium, its speed and wavelength changes, but frequency remains unchanged. Please remember this. Frequency will remain unchanged, and the speed of sound remain unchanged by the increase or decrease of the pressure. And the speed of sound increases with the increase of temperature of the medium. So pressure is having no effect, but temperature is having the effect. And the speed of sound is more in humid air than in the dry air, because the density of humid air is less than the density of the dry air. Please remember these facts, these are very important. So speed of sound is maximum in solid, minimum in gases, and when sound waves move from one medium to another, its frequency will remain unchanged and speed and wavelength will be changes. And the speed of sound will remain unchanged by the decrease or increase of pressure. So pressure is having no effect on the speed of sound, but temperature is having effect on the speed of sound. And temperature is actually directly proportional to the speed of sound, and the speed of sound is more in humid air than in dry air, because density of humid air is less than the density of the dry air. Now echo is actually the repetition of sound waves or sound due to the reflection of sound waves is known as echo. Intensity is defined as amount of energy passing normally per unit area held around that point per source unit time. Pitch is actually the sensation of a frequency, and it is commonly referred to as the pitch of the sound. So pitch, the sensation of a frequency, is commonly referred to as the pitch of a sound. Normally the pitch of female or the woman are normally the pitch of the female or the woman is higher than the male. Please remember this fact. Now sonar means sound navigation and ranging. Sonar, so from sound, na from navigation, and r from ranging. So sonar means sound navigation and ranging. It is used to measure the depth of the sea and to locate the enemy submarines and shipwrecks. Doppler's effect is actually if there is a relative motion between the source of sound and observer, the apparent frequency of the sound heard by the observer is different from the actual frequency. So please focus on these red colored words. And if there is relative motion between the source of sound and observer, then the apparent frequency of sound heard by the observer will be different from the actual frequency of the sound emitted by the source, and this phenomenon is known as Doppler's effect. Now light, it is actually a form of energy which is propagated as electromagnetic waves, and it is the radiation which makes our eyes able to see the object. Light speed is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, and it is the form of energy. So light is actually a form of energy, and it is a transverse waves. We have seen the difference between the longitudinal and the transverse wave, and it takes around 8 minutes 20 second or 19 second to reach light from the sun to the earth, and the light reflected from the moon takes around 1.28 second to reach earth. Now reflection of light means when a ray of light falls on a boundary separating two media comes back into the same media, then this phenomenon is known as reflection of light. And reflection of plane mirror, this is very important fact. Please focus on these red words. To see the full image in a plane mirror, a person required a mirror of at least half of his height. This question have been asked in various times in UPPCS and MPPCS and in SSC exams. Please remember this fact, that to see the full image of any person in a plane mirror, a person requires at least a mirror of half of his height. And reflection from plane mirror, if an object moves towards a plane mirror with speed v relative to the object, then uh, object the it moves with a speed 2v. This is very important, this red colored, please remember this. So this is the fifth part of the physics concept for exams. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services for more updates, and please wait for our next part of this video. Thank you for listening. Hello guys, welcome to Study for Civil Services. This video series we have actually started general science, and we have already covered chemistry concepts and chemistry MCQs. And in this video series we are covering the physics concepts and very basic physics concepts for the exams, and we have covered up to this plane mirror, and we have told you that please remember this fact directly. This question have been asked in various times in exams, and this is very frequent question. To see the full image of a person in a plane mirror, a person required at least a mirror of half of its size, half of his height. Another concept is spherical mirror. Spherical mirror are of two types. One is concave and another is convex mirror. Now, image formed by a convex mirror is always virtual, erect, and diminished, and image formed by a concave mirror is generally real and inverted. Uses of concave and convex mirror are very important, and their uses are generally asked in the exams. Now, uses of concave mirror, please remember that you concave mirror can be used as a shaving mirror. It can also be used as a reflector for the headlights of a vehicle searchlight. Then concave mirror can also be used in ophthalmoscope to examine eye, ear, nose by the doctor. And then concave mirror can also be used in the solar cookers. So three actually uses are very important. Concave mirror is used in the shaving mirror, then as reflector of headlights of vehicle, and then in solar cooker. Then we will see the uses of convex mirror. Convex mirror can be used as a rear view mirror or RVM in the vehicle because it provides the maximum rear field of the view and image formed is always erect. And convex mirror is also used in the sodium reflector lamp. So please remember this, convex mirror is used in the RVM of the vehicle, rear view mirror. Then refraction of light means the bending of the ray of light passing from one medium to another medium. And when a ray of light enters from one medium to another medium, its frequency and phase do not change. I have told you many times. Wavelength could be changed, velocity could be changed. Now, due to refraction from the Earth's surface, the stars actually appear to twinkle. Critical angle means the angle of incidence in a denser medium for which the angle of refraction in rarer medium becomes 90. Now, total internal reflection, this is very important concept. Please remember this concept as it is. Actually, the applications of these concepts are very important and they are quite frequently asked in the exams. Like sparkling of diamond is based on the total internal reflection. Then mirage and looming based on the TIR, and then shining of the bubble in water, sheening of the air bubble in the water. Then optical fiber, they all are the example of total internal reflection. You might have heard the scheme launched by the government of India, National Optical Fiber, NOFN, and there the optical fiber is used, and that optical fiber is actually based on the total internal reflection. Now we will see some of the concepts of electricity and magnetism. Charge is the basic property associated with matter due to which it produces and experiences electric and magnetic effects. Similar charges actually repel each other and opposite charges attract each other. This is the law of universe, and the SI unit of charge is Coulomb. Now, conductor means those materials which allow electricity to pass through them, and all the metals, mostly all the metals like silver, iron, copper, and earth, acts as a converter. Earth is the biggest conductor present in the actually Earth surface is the biggest conductor, and that is why there is always a switch, a third point in the all the electronic switches, and that is known as earthing because it absorbs all the currents. Now, silver is the best conductor. Please remember this fact. This fact can be directly asked in the exam. Silver is the best conductor. Insulator means those materials which do not allow electricity to flow through them. And this is not metals actually. Materials like wood, paper, mica, glass, and ebonite are the insulators. Electronic current is a scalar quantity and its unit is ampere. An electrical bulb makes a bang when it is broken because there is a vacuum inside the electric bulb. And in the previous videos, I have told you that some gases are also filled in the electric bulb, like argon and sometimes nitrogen also. Now these are some of the measuring units, very important. Angstrom is used for measuring length of light, denoted by A. 1 angstrom is equal to 10 to the power minus 10 meter. Then barrel used for measuring liquids, 1 barrel is equal to 31.5 gallons. Cable is used for measuring length of cable. Carat actually is used for measuring precious stones, and it is also a measure for the purity of gold alloy. You might have heard this name, that 24 carats, 22 carats, 18 carats. There are various quantities of carats present in the gold, and 24 carats assumed to be purest form of the gold. Then fathom is used for the measuring depth of water. 1 fathom is equal to 4 inches. Knot is used for measuring speed of the ships. These are some of the conversion factor. You can see that 1 kg equal to 1000 grams, or 6.02 into 10 to the power 26 atomic mass unit. Then one slug is equal to this. You can pause the video and just have a look at this. These are very important. Sometimes these could also be asked. Then these are some of the terms related with the meter. Then 1 meter, or then 1 deca means 10 to the power 1, hecto means 10 to the power 2 meter, kilo means 10 to the power 3 meter, mega means 10 to the power 6, and giga means 10 to the power 9. So these actually 10 to the power is the exponential multiplier, and the prefix of this is this. And similar way, deci means 10 to the power minus 1, centi 10 to the power minus 2, milli means 10 to the power minus 3, micro means 10 to the power minus 6, nano means 10 to the power minus 9 meter, and pico means 10 to the power minus 12. And there are some other terms like femto. Now some important scientific instrument in here we will see, and this is the list of some of the very important scientific instrument. First is accumulator. Accumulator is the instrument where electrical energy is stored. Then altimeter used in the aircraft for measuring altitudes. Then ammeter is used for measuring the electrical current in amperes. Then anemometer is used for measuring the strength of winds. So this is the sixth part of the physics concept for exams. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel Study for Civil Services for more updates. And please wait for our next and last part of this physics concept for exams. Thank you for listening. Study for Civil Services. This is the seventh and last part of physics concepts and or physics digest for exams. These are very basic concepts, and these are must know for all the exams. So we have finished up to the units, and in this video we will start with some important scientific instrument. This is the collection of all the important scientific instrument, and also all the instrument which have previously been asked in the exams. So let's start. First is accumulator. Accumulator is used to store the electrical energy. Then another is altimeter. It is used in aircraft for measuring altitudes. Altimeters means altitudes. Then ammeter, it is used to measure the electrical current in amperes. Then anemometer, it is used to measure the strength of the winds. This question has been asked in the UPPCS 2016 also. So anemometer is used for measuring the strength of winds. Audiometer is used for measuring the intensity of wind. Then audiophone is used for improving imperfect sense of hearing. Then barometer is used for measuring atmospheric pressure. And here mercury is used actually. Then binocular is an optical instrument designed for magnified view of distant object by both eyes simultaneously. Then cardiogram is used for recording the heart movements. So that is why cardiograph is obtained after the heartbeats. In the heart, actually, diseases they used to, you know the cardiographs. Then calorimeter is measuring of qualities of heat. Chronometer is a clock that keeps very accurate time as the one that is used to determine longitude at sea. Then colorimeter is an instrument for comparing intensities of color. So this is colorimeter. Then commutator is an instrument to change or remove the direction of an electrical current in dynamo, used to convert alternating current into direct current, AC into DC. Then cyclotron means the studying the properties of atoms by smashing them. Dynamo is a device for converting mechanical energy into electrical energy. This question has also been asked in the UPPC's exam 2016 prelims. So dynamo is the device used for converting mechanical energy into electrical energy. These are very important scientific instrument. You must remember this. And dynamo is the most important. It is used for converting mechanical energy into electrical energy. Dynamometer is an instrument for measuring the electrical power. Then electroscope is an instrument for detecting the presence of electric charge. Then galvanometer means used for detecting and measuring electrical current. Phonograph is used for reproducing sound. Then quartz clock is a highly accurate clock used in astronomical observations and other precision work. Radar is radio angle detection and range is used to detect the direction and range of an approaching aeroplane by means of radio microwave. So if above the ground, it is known as radar, and if the it is used in the waters to find the depth of the water or to find the depth of the sea or ocean, it is known as sonar. So their sound waves are used. Then radiometer is an instrument for measuring the emission of radiant energy. Radio micrometer is an instrument for measuring heat radiations. Then rain gauge is an instrument for measuring rainfall. Rectifier is an instrument used for conversion of AC into DC. Refractometer is an instrument used to measure the refractive index of a substance. Then resistance thermometer used for determining the electrical resistance of conductors. Selenometer is a type of hydrometer used to determine the concentration of salt solutions by measuring their densities. Seismometer or seismograph is an apparatus used for measuring and recording earthquake shocks. And earthquake is actually measured in the Richter scale. Then sextant for guiding ships or surveying land. Spectroscope is an instrument used for spectrum analysis. Then speedometer actually register the speed at which vehicle is moving. Spherometer is used for measuring curvature of surfaces. Then sphygmomanometer is an instrument used to detect blood pressure in a human body, and it is also called BP apparatus. So BP apparatus is also known as sphygmomanometer, and it is an instrument used to detect blood pressure in a human body. Then sphygmophone is an instrument with the help of which a pulse beat make a sound. Spring balance used for measuring weights. Stereoscope is used to view two-dimensional pictures. Stethoscope is an instrument which is used by the doctor to hear and analyze heart and lung sounds. Then stroboscope is used to view rapidly moving objects. Then tachometer is an instrument used in measuring speeds of aeroplane and motorboats. Then tachometer is actually is used in measuring speed of aeroplane and motorboats by counting the number of revolution. Then teleprinter is the instrument receives and send typed message from one place to another. Telescope is the instrument which view distant objects in space. Then theodolite, it measures horizontal and vertical angles. Then transistor is a small device which may be used to amplify currents and perform other functions usually performed by a thermionic value. Then vernier is an adjustable scale for measuring small subdivisions of a scale to also measure the least count of the scale. Then viscometer is for measuring the viscosity. Voltmeter is used to measure potential difference between the 2 points. So these are some of the very important scientific instrument. You must remember these for all the exams. And these are some of the basic physics concepts for 2016 exams. And this video could be used for all the exams like UPSC and state PCS and SSC exams and banking and other railway exams and various other competitive exams. So thank you for listening. Please subscribe our channel, Study for Civil Services, more updates.